Hey guys, a bit of a different video today. I experienced a bit of drama out in the Arctic recently, as I had a run-in with a fellow streamer whilst they were live on Twitch. I felt it was a great example of a reoccurring problem we're seeing in Dreadhunger currently, and I wanted to address the whole ordeal in one video. That problem, of course, is player disconnection. I'm hearing about and experiencing issues with players not honouring that commitment they made at the start of each game to see through that lobby every day, and I don't see an end in sight. When a player disconnects, you can't possibly know why unless they tell you before they leave. This is important because it leaves you speculating why, often assuming the worst. Today's example was quite literally a worst case scenario for me, and I walked away genuinely concerned I'd been publicly slandered on Twitch and unfairly painted as a villain. When I watched back the game from the perspective of the streamer who was in the game, it was very clear my worst fears were indeed true. I feel it's important to iron out the issue, show the game as it happened, parallel it with what happened with the crew and the perspective of the streamer, and give you guys all the information and leave you to judge what happened for yourself. I've also reached out to the streamer to sort our differences out privately. This video was to address the claims made on his live stream that I felt weren't a fair representation of me or what happened. My greatest concern was his overreaction, leaving any of you guys thinking less of me over a situation that was blown completely out of proportion. It's important to note that I've always respected Kushcrook's dedication to Dreadhunger, and this video is to air the whole issue out, tell my side as it were, and hopefully come out the other side in the Arctic, able to be in the same expeditions moving forward. So, let's get into this. I have been getting good hands lately.
I played 6 hours yesterday and was thrown twice.
Yeah.
6 hours today and then 2 hours yesterday before I got off. I didn't get one.
Yeah, I've been thrown a few times today.
Finally, I'm a thrall.
I'm fucking about to cry. I want a refund.
Sounds like cap. I'm
tired of being good.
Thrall guys.
Sounds like a
I'm gonna
curse.
put my colon and then I'm doing a fat dab, bro, because I can't be bothered.
Yeah, man.
Be a crew again.
Oh, sorry.
Who's hitting people? Number
I tried to
2 is
open the door. I wanted to open the door.
Number one's captain. Number one's captain. Somebody monitor how much coal's in there.
Oh yeah, navigator up top and all that.
Nobody
Who's coming out from the
here
top?
screws with the coal.
Yeah.
What are you doing,
You never
Doctor?
know.
Doctor's being a bit shady. I don't like that.
Three coal in the boiler, guys. 3 coal.
Tommy's just in.
Yeah, the two upstairs just put theirs in, so I like how Josie. I guess your name's Josie, but I like how Josie said, nobody here fucks with the coal.
Bro. I don't know who this scumbag is.
Because even if the thrall does it well, I mean,
Fuck you, buddy.
like, that's not fun for anybody.
I'm going on the helm.
So let's talk about what's happened so far. The game began, I got Thrall, and we all ran out of the poker room. The Royal Marine opted to throw his coal on the ground, neglect it if you will, in order to get an early advantage, jumping off the front of the ship to gather resources faster than anyone else. This is of course a massive crew advantage if executed correctly, allowing coal to come back to the ship quicker, and gives the Royal Marine the upper hand on anyone else in the game. The sacrifice is that coal, and he puts it down on the assumption that a crew member will pick it up and put it in the boiler. This is pretty standard. I've done it myself. I'm sure many players have done this, and it's based on the assumption that players will in fact use that coal and put it in the boiler. The problem with this play is that it is inherently a risk. You're opting to not take the safe route of putting the coal piece into the boiler yourself, and you're leaving it up to chance whether the player who picks it up is a crew member or a thrall. If a thrall picks it up, you're hoping that the thrall puts the coal in the boiler. This is, of course, a part of the issue that's about to occur. we hear the crew speaking on how, quote unquote, no one here fucks with the coal. I have no issue with the idea that the thrall shouldn't be grabbing all the pieces of the coal out of the boiler, throwing it in the water and saying, ha ha ha, it's me. That feels a little bit gross. It's very difficult for the crew to come back from that due to the ship's general proximity and where it's placed, and it leaves the game and the crew feeling pretty disheartened and unable to push forward. I choose not to do that myself because for me, that's too far. What doesn't get addressed here is that there is a quote-unquote rule in this lobby, which I wasn't made aware of, that no one fucks with the coal. Now that's quite a loose term. What does fucking with the coal mean? Am I, as a thrall, required to put my coal into the boiler? If I choose not to, am I breaking the rules of the lobby? Should I be kicked from the lobby in the future if I choose as the thrall not to put my coal, which I have every right to put in or not as a thrall, into the boiler? Or is that acceptable? Is that fucking with the coal? If I get the captain's chest and I get a second coal, if I choose not to put that coal in, I'm now holding 2 pieces of coal back from the crew. Does that mean I'm not required to put that coal in? Or am I required to put it in, and if I don't put both of those pieces in, should I be kicked from the lobby? And of course, if I happen upon a third piece of coal, and this is without even making the effort to go in and take a piece of coal that was put in the boiler individually by each player, if I happen upon another piece of coal, either from my teammate, who's also a thrall, or from a crewmate who neglects their piece, am I required to put that coal piece into the boiler? Obviously, I take a great problem with the requirement, if you couldn't tell by my tone, the requirement to put coal into the boiler as thrall. You're basically saying, okay, the crew aren't good enough to win on their own. We have to make a rule at the start of the game that gives them an 8 coal head start. If they don't get this 8 coal head start, the game's too hard for us to win, and we're not going to have any fun, as is so delicately put in this in the starting of this video. It's a comment that the game isn't fun for anyone if anyone fucks with the coal. It's simply not true. It's just simply not true. There is a massive difference between all 8 pieces being taken, or all 9 pieces including the captain's chest, disappearing and going into the water at the start of the game, and the crew being able to move a short distance and then being hindered and unable to move any further. There is an absolute night and day difference in the ability for the crew to come back from that. The only difference that I'm seeing that is dramatic is that isn't dramatic is the fact that both are considered under the same label as fucking with the coal. As you see, I'm turning the coal into gunpowder, I'm playing the engineer, and I'm about to turn my 3 pieces of coal into a powder keg. The ship gets a decent head start. I'd say uses about 2-3 coal before the powder keg goes off. They could have gotten more out of it, by the way, if they hadn't sat there not starting the boiler and addressing and talking about coal, but that's another issue. And the ship eventually gets blown up. We'll see that happen shortly. And the issue is the reaction that happens afterwards. I would say it's the negative, or it's already the established negative attitude towards any kind of tampering or playing as the thrall. Let's say any movement or play made by the thrall in the first minute is basically heavily frowned upon in these lobbies, which is strange to me. These are experienced players, they're capable players. I respect them as Dreadhunger players, and I don't think they're incapable or unable to play the game in any way. They shouldn't have a problem coming back from a little powder keg at the start of the game. The major issue that I see in the upcoming moment is negative mental headspace, a negative association with what happened, and basically a general let's give up, it's too hard attitude. That's all twisted in a narrative that goes against me and makes me out to be a villain. You'll see that coming up. But I want to address what's happened so far, and I'll do that throughout this, throughout my perspective, and then I'll contrast it with what is spoken on the Twitch stream, and you'll see why I'm reacting the way I am. Anyway, let's keep going.
We don't like your time here. literally comms abuse.
Alright, we're gonna go
I
straight
fucked
for this
up.
powder
Are
keg.
you okay, Doc?
Just gonna hold on to
Oh,
this.
you got your syringe.
I fucked up pretty hard there.
Are you the one that stole the coal?
No, I put my coal down the vent.
Yeah, he did. I saw him do that. I think it was him and Navigator put him down the vent.
Somebody took
I was
it
number
out.
one.
Or at least
No,
if
it
he
was
is.
Dr. Chaplin that put it down the vent.
Yeah, maybe I should.
Okay, so somebody probably just kept the one that Cruz dropped on the ground then. So I'll have to put those in.
I need to get out of sight of the spit.
Oh, I don't really care.
What?
Engineer, are you fucking kidding me, bro? Who's our engineer, bro?
Oh, what?
Wow.
I will stand by that. I did not steal coal. I picked up a coal that got dropped, and I had 2 coal myself. I will not be. I will not feel guilty about that. So at this point, the powder keg's gone off, and we've seen the reaction of the crew. Some of the players are laughing, which is great. How you expect it to be. It's like, whoa, a powder keg this early. You kind of have a laugh. That's the good sportsmanship, and I respect those players. Others are a little bit more upset, disheartened, and of course there is the quote-unquote rule set by the host of the lobby. And let's entertain the idea that the host of a lobby can actually create rules for Dreadhunger that everyone must follow. This is the same sort of standard, if you're not familiar with Dead by Daylight, as the Survivor's rulebook for killers. It's an ongoing joke in the community that survivors, that entitled survivors, have an expectation of how killers must act, and if they don't, they should be abused and belittled at the end of the game. That kind of attitude. It's the same thing here. It's a self-imagined set of rules that, sure, people can agree to play under, but again, you're playing with people who haven't agreed to those rules, being me, and then you're overreacting when those players don't abide by your self-imposed rules, under, of course, the threat of a host who will kick you from the lobby and for not respecting the rules. It's all very high school for me. It's all very cliquish and a bit gross, but that's neither here nor there. Let's contrast what happened from my perspective with what happened on Kush's stream. From what I understand, I'm entitled and completely allowed to post footage from his stream in my videos. So here goes.
Yeah.
Okay, so somebody probably just kept the one that Cruz dropped on the ground then, and then the Thralls never put theirs in. I don't really care. Engineer, are you fucking kidding me, bro? Who's our engineer, bro?
Oh, what?
You really stole initial coal to blow us up, bro?
Wow.
What a scumbag, bro.
Well, I mean, now we know it's him.
I don't care who you are, you're a scumbag. You're a shit can. I don't care who he is, he's a fucking shit can.
So that's the initial reaction. Was clearly not a fan of the powder keg. Very, very overly negative reaction to what happened. Clearly he's opinionated. Clearly he feels I broke a rule. But of course it's hard to knowingly break a rule that you didn't know existed. And of course we've already questioned the necessity of the rule earlier in this video, so I won't dive back into that. But clearly unnecessary name labeling, unnecessary chatter already, making me out as having done some horrible thing to deserve to have earned the nicknames and the names that he's thrown my way there. Clearly, I'm not a fan of that, and I would have preferred that didn't happen. I imagine come daybreak, I'll hear from Kush, probably a bit of an apology there. You'd expect so, he's a professional, but anyway, I expect that this reaction came from 2 places. One, didn't like that I broke the rule that he'd set. He didn't like that I suppose, challenged the necessity of that. Or at least I challenged the fact that that rule exists in the first place, even though I unknowingly did it. I provided an example of how fucking with the coal wasn't this super unfun result that that means that the game is over and everyone should give up. It's proof that that rule needs revising. And secondly, the reaction came from a place of anger, frustration, and just general, probably tiredness and exhaustion from playing, I believe he said 6 hours of Dread Hunger and 2 hours yesterday, or the day before this occurred. And he didn't get a single thrall game. I know from experience, I sympathize, it's a horrible feeling, especially when you have grand plans as thrall, you've been planning them, you just want to have one opportunity to test things out, to play the bad guy. And of course, he didn't get it. The game's just begun, he didn't get it, and now this has happened. It's the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak. And I can sympathize, I can forgive that. No problem. Absolutely no problem. I'd like acknowledgement that that was, of course, a contributing factor, and I'd like a conversation to occur so that I know that there's no hard feelings on his end. As for me, once I've posted this video, I've done everything I could. I've explained my point of view, and at that point, I'm good. I'm okay. I would love to have a chat, and I don't know, I'd like to have a chat, possibly let's have a chat about revising that rule in his future lobbies. Of course, that's not for me to decide, but I'd be very, very curious to hear an argument in favor of keeping that rule, given what happened in this game, given that this is a clear example of when that rule shouldn't be a thing, isn't a thing, and given the fact that that rule gives the crew a massive advantage in every game it plays, every game they play, which undoubtedly gives a massive advantage in the two easy maps, or easier maps, the Approach and the Expanse. The crew can't be stopped, and 8 coal at the start of the game can't be touched, so it's tough to come back from that. Anyway, so let's go back to my perspective, and we'll keep moving forward.
Alright, is it in this cave?
Where's
Oh
the shop?
god.
Show me a barrel.
Yeah, man. There you go.
Yeah, that's right.
So I escape the marine and I spirit walk up ahead, ready to start the next phase of my plan, which is of course to return to the ship with either more powder kegs, more delays, before setting up for the end game ultimate play of some kind of prevention or mass destruction around Nitro. As you can see, this plan takes a significant amount of time. This is running at 500%, so the actual game went for about 25 minutes. I comment throughout this, which I haven't got because I've taken the audio out, on I believe my justification for my starting play, speculation as to why the ship still hasn't been repaired, assumption that the crew are just complaining about things and not doing anything. There's any number of reasons why that could be happening. But I start realizing, okay, the ship hasn't moved. It's the end of day 2. I've got 4 powder kegs, and when I thrall vision, I can't see anyone. This is looking a little bit fishy. What's going on here? So I spirit walk back to the ship. I have a look around. I see there's one player who hasn't disconnected, or they have disconnected, but their character hasn't twisted. I'm really not sure what happened here. So I blow up the ship, I kill the last guy, and the game ends. It's very evident that the crew chose to disconnect, follow the powder keg incident at the start of the game, and the game, in effect, was ruined. Every player in the game experienced that, well, chose to do that disconnection solution that we talked about at the beginning. Now, I was under the impression at the time that everyone decided and all agreed that the disconnection should happen. Of course, I later found out that wasn't the case. That's not really that relevant now, but for the sake of this video, I do want to quickly note that the disconnection occurred, and it was the actions of one player that ruined the game for everyone else, because at that point it was one person choosing to disconnect, leading the way, and everyone else chose to follow suit. I can't blame them for that. I don't hold any of the players who disconnected, except for obviously Kush, accountable for that. And I would say that it is representative of a larger issue in the Dread Hunger community, that is acceptable to leave. If you feel like you can leave, you just leave. And that basic respect, that basic commitment to one another in the game from start to finish that I believe as a group, as a community of gamers, we should be holding at the highest as one of our highest values. That gets neglected in favor of personal feeling, personal indulgence, and of course emotional responses. So let's have a quick look now to what happened on Kushcrook's stream that led to this result, and effectively 22 minutes of my life running around a lobby as the only person in the game. I do want to say that I believe it was the doctor who repaired the ship. Thank you, Doctor, for doing that. A lot of respect thrown your way for sticking it out, repairing the ship, before obviously opting out of a game that was clearly clearly over. So let's have a look.
It'd be really funny if we just quit and restarted, wouldn't it?
He ran up to me and I asked where his barrel was because I heard the bomb. And then
Yo, it would be really funny if we restarted. He stole the fucking coal that you dropped on the ground and somebody else's and made a bomb. Yeah, I don't even care, honestly. I'm not being thrall either. I'm not fucking wasting my time. We restart and he can play a solo thrall game. He'll join my lobby and fuck that shit.
Nah, that's funny.
Yeah, I don't care who he is, bro. You don't join my lobby and fuck that shit. He can find a new one to play in.
What happened?
Plumoe stole the initial coal and then made a bomb and blew the ship up.
Oh.
Yeah. Apparently he doesn't know the fucking lobby rules. He gonna have to learn some proper etiquette somewhere else. He's gonna feel so fucking funny when he's the only one in that lobby. Because he spirit walked way ahead. Fucking dumbass.
That was the only thrall. I would have grabbed
Yeah, it was
the
shit.
barrel for
Like,
myself.
he should know. He literally stole the initial coal and made a bomb out of it.
Yeah. And
He can find a new lobby. I could give a fuck less.
No, it really wasn't funny. It was bad sportsmanship, Kush. I understand why you were in such a negative headspace, but it wasn't funny. It was unprofessional, and honestly a pretty terrible example for the community on a growing disconnection issue. You were constantly stating a factually inaccurate statement. I didn't steal coal. I took advantage of neglected coal. You're telling people things that just aren't true, and you're actively trying to make me out as the arsehole to your friends and viewers. You could say I was disappointed by that part of the video. Let's revise exactly what happened. I blew up the ship with the coal that I did not steal. When the bomb went off, your reaction was just as explosive. I was called rude names and painted as a bad guy on your Twitch stream. You alone made the whole situation out to be unfun, and you alone led the crew to disconnect from an easily resolvable delay. Instead of playing the game out and speaking to me after the game about the rule you had in place, like a professional, you opted to disconnect, mock me live on your stream, paint me as the arsehole, and openly state I'd need to find a different lobby to play in. I'd hope this was just an in-the-moment emotional response, and this whole ordeal doesn't result in any immature grudge holding moving forward. But I guess we'll see. Let's not forget you paraded to your viewers that it was okay to disconnect if the game was ever remotely difficult, even if that delay is a day one powder keg. 6 leaks, 6 wood, 6 nails. We have a disconnection problem in the community, and I'd expect better from our live streamers and influencers. But I also understand that we're only human, we make mistakes. I just hope we can talk this one out in our private chat on Discord like adults and move past this whole thing. I'd appreciate an apology for the name calling and public slander. I'd highly recommend revising the rule for the fairness and balance of your future games, or consider an audio rule explainer you can play over your mic at the beginning of each and every game moving forward, so everyone is on the same page. There's a major difference between etiquette and actively restricting the thrall's ability to play the game and giving the crew an advantage instead. If anyone can present an argument in favour of the don't fuck with the coal rule and the benefits it provides, or if you can shed light on exactly what this rule actually means so I can tell if I even broke the rule, please comment below. I'd also love to hear your thoughts on the whole drama and if you're experiencing similar disconnection issues. This was by far the most extreme disconnection example I've encountered, but it won't be the last. To Kushcrook. Now that I've said my piece and told my side of the story, so to speak, I hold no grudges. I'd hope you can do the same. At the end of the day, we all love Dreadhunger, and any drama we encounter out in the Arctic will seem silly in the grand scheme of things, and it all won't matter when Bongo ground pounds us off the mountain into the abyss. Thanks for watching, and I hope this ironed out a few things. Good luck out in the Arctic, and watch out for Bongo.